Hello everyone, SimplyAyu here, and today we are gonna react. So we just reacted to the isekai and fantasy of Winter, where we are currently, from aninews, and today we are gonna react to the solo leveling cut content. So if you don't know who I am, I have been reading the webtoon and the light novel of solo leveling. Basically read all of them a couple of times, so I know the story from the beginning to the end. I just want to see with you guys what changed from the different parts of the webtoon, the light novel, and the anime. Let's see what aninews has been cooking. I like his videos, so we're gonna watch it. I used to watch his Overlord videos because I am a big fan of Overlord as well. So let's go into it and let's see what's gonna happen.
This was pretty good. I
It
will
is.
admit I had my doubts, but after seeing the first episode, the pacing and the fluid animation, I think solo leveling might actually be in pretty good hands with this one.
Show us
Of course, it's not panel
the highlights.
like how Freerin is, but when it comes to comparing it with the webcomic, the dark tone and gritty action is captured fairly nicely.
It is.
Now,
yep.
I'm sure that's something plenty of you have read already, so I'm not just going to be comparing the anime to the webcomic, but I'll also talk about how it compares to the novels too.
Yes.
The original publication that came out 3 years before the webcomic.
There is, okay, I'm just gonna pause really quick. There is a very good traduction of the light novel somewhere on the internet. It's from 25 Chestnuts. You have a very good traduction of the first 100 chapters, I believe. So if you want to try and read the light novel, yeah, just give it a try. The name of the light novel is different. It is only I level up. So yeah, give it a try.
It's here there's plenty more lore related to the world and the hunters within, so whether you're anime only or someone who's read the manhwa, this video and the ones to follow it will talk about all solo leveling has to offer. It's a completely spoiler-free review of what the anime doesn't show us. So, if you want to see weekly videos just like this one, then consider subscribing since there'll be plenty more of them.
Yeah, subscribe to aninews. Is the best.
It's an interesting choice
they
to
are the
start
best.
the anime with the teaser for one of the best arcs in the entire series, but what I think
The Jeju Island is very good.
This means is that they might be planning to eventually get to it. The tease itself does highlight the core elements of solo leveling, so as an introduction to this brand new world, it does do its purpose and familiarizes us with it. We were shown hunters and the monsters they face,
the
as well as
S-ranks.
the immense power both sides were capable of. The threat of death was made apparent right from the get-go, and the tone of such battles were made clear as well. The thing is, this isn't the way that solo leveling actually started. It's an excerpt from the 13th arc of the webtoon. About 90 chapters deep for that, or 111 if you're reading the novel.
Yeah, it's very far.
Once again, I'm hoping it is to show that they do plan on making it here, but if each episode covers 4 to 5 chapters each, that would put the start of this arc right between episodes 18 and 22. So, it definitely is possible if the pacing continues the way it does, but at the very minimum it would have to be done through a split course season. And even then that would only bring us to the start of the arc. So, despite solo leveling being listed for 12 episodes only, I wouldn't be surprised if they announced
there's gonna have a second
after that.
Yeah, for sure.
Where solo leveling
like Minutes in Shadow
with the introduction of our world's weakest hunter, Sung. There were plans to
Sung
localize his
Jinwoo
name to something like Shun Mizashino, but that's a change only present in Japan's TV version of the anime. The version we have from Crunchyroll.
Sometimes when you watch a different version of on the internet, you have like different names. Sometimes it's very interesting.
And Aniplex is separately voiced to include the character names that we know. So, despite the website showing localized names different from the webtoon, the ones any of us overseas will be getting are the OG ones. To focus on the actual content
interesting.
Now, Sung Jin-woo is the weakest because he's pretty much just a normal human. Yes, he's an awakened hunter just like all the others, but with his strength being similar to that of an average human, and his wounds capable of healing just a bit faster, there wasn't much else to differentiate him.
Okay, so I'm gonna pause a couple of times because I have some knowledge of the light novel and stuff. Basically, an E rank, so someone like Jinwoo, has a magic power of, say, something between 70 to 120. This is an average E rank, okay? Jinwoo has 10. 10 or 12, I don't remember exactly, but he has 12. So he's very weak, even in the E ranks.
From a non-awakened person. This would often lead to him getting injured, and more times than not it was for a pay that wasn't even worth it. Why continue being a hunter then? Well, it certainly wasn't because he liked to, but was instead because he felt he had to. Because the Hunters Association had a medical aid payout tied to their payroll, this was a massive help in funding his mother's medical bills. If it wasn't, then Sung Jin-woo would have given up his hunter's license years ago. He had no problem going and getting an ordinary job, but it's just that it wouldn't support his sickly mother the way that hunting did. I mean, he was after all a 24-year-old man with no special talents or background.
24, yeah.
Combine this with a debt of several thousand
and
USD a month,
Jui is 20,
you get as a person
the girl.
whose only choice is to be a hunter. Now, when it came to gates such as these, it wasn't rare for everyone participating to know each other, since the same hunters were almost always called upon. They were the ones the Hunter Association would usually assign to this area.
Those guys are not in a guild, but
since the
that's why
was
they didn't know each other.
This highly coveted commodity. You see, there were only so many gates to go around for everyone, and with each guild competing to be the ones to clear it, that meant less were available for the independent hunters tied to the Hunter Association.
Exactly, yeah.
It had made for this interesting society in which the very act of dungeon clearing was now something people could make money off of, resulting in the creation of this new highly profitable industry. So, with every gate having the potential to bring in millions, it was only natural these private guilds be the ones to try and capitalize on it.
Oh, I can't wait to see the guilds.
Where the only gates left
there is some very interesting members.
Were these smaller low-rank ones not even worth doing for the guilds. Luckily, this meant those gates were usually easy and safe, but what it also meant was that there wasn't a lot of profit in them. No guild typically meant not a lot of money. Sure, that also indicated the difficulty would be low too, but even that wasn't known for sure in this business. There were still numerous hunters who carried themselves with quite a bit of worry here. Such was the nature of taking a job like this. What quickly changed that mood to something better, though, was the arrival of Sung and the message he brought with him. You see, if the Hunter Association judged this gate to be one that Sung Jin-woo could handle, then that meant for sure that this was going to be an easy one.
Yep.
Everyone who's raided with him knew that him being there meant that things were gonna be fine.
Mr. Kim, look at him smiling.
That didn't really apply to him, but for everyone else who knows they're stronger than him, they could dismiss their worries since anything he could do, they could do for sure.
Yep.
Now, to clarify more on the example they used to show how weak he really is, the E-rank dungeon he got injured in was an anomaly many didn't even think to be possible. You see, while normally raids are almost always completed with a healer, because no one had ever gotten injured in an E-rank dungeon before, the association didn't even think that a healer was necessary. They had decided to send in his party without one. So, when Sung Jin-woo did inevitably get hurt, the lack of a healer meant that he would have to spend the next week in a hospital, recovering from a wound that no one else thought was even possible.
A dungeon filled with goblins. That's crazy.
But it's before we continue into the dungeon itself that we would first get an anime original scene with the chairman and his associate. He's not someone who shows up until a little bit later, but as the acting leader of the overall Hunter Association, it makes sense to use him as an exposition tool. So, he pretty much informed us as to why dungeons can be so profitable, then went on to explain the lucrative market that's formed around it. To hunters, dungeons are an easy way to make progressively more money, then to the government, the resources from said dungeons are a clean and efficient energy source. There's smaller details we don't find out till later on in the story, but I think revealing them now gives more motivation as to why certain things are the way they are in this world. It leans more into the idea that dungeons aren't just something that needs to be cleared, but have instead turned into this economy-defining industry, one that's deeply rooted itself in countries across the globe.
Yep.
Switching back to something a bit more
it's a very lucrative market,
raid that
for sure.
is currently taking part in. A brief scene exclusive to the webcomic was the part where Song had asked whether he could be their leader or not. It wasn't something he declared like how we saw in the anime, but was instead a role he offered to take since he was the most experienced. I mean, with a decade spent raiding and a high rank of C, it was only natural that he be the one to lead everyone. In fact, if not for the fact
this is a very good leader.
60 years old, Song's skills as a mage would have landed him a comfy spot in just about any guild. He was a competent hunter everyone present knew that they could count on. Now, I know I mentioned how most of these hunters already knew each other, but there's a different reason why Sung Jin-woo and Lee Ji-hee are so familiar with each other. Normally the two wouldn't have ever interacted.
What did he say?
With Lee Ji-hee are so familiar. hunters already knew each other, but there's a different reason why Sung Jin-woo and Lee Ji-hee are so familiar with each other.
Oh, okay.
Normally the two wouldn't have ever interacted, but with her being essential and him, well, not, their paths were fated to cross more times than you would think. What I mean is that with Joo-hee being the essential healer that she is, it was only natural she be present at every raid Sung Jin-woo was at. Since healing was the rarest type of magic out of all of them, the Hunter Association
And she's
had
a
no
B
choice
rank.
but to ask a B rank
But she's
player
afraid
to
of going
present
in
at
higher
every raid that
dungeons.
opened up. Not the ones that the guilds were doing, but any left behind for the Hunter Association was one that Lee Ji-hee would be asked to be healer for. So, with Sung Jin-woo getting injured at every gate, what started out as a freak accident quickly turned into a recurring incident that made Joo-hee question whether he was.
She saved him multiple times.
There were about 8 separate instances in which Sung Jin-woo would have to be healed by her. By then, he was no longer at the point of being grateful for her saving him, but was instead now just feeling bad for always inconveniencing her. It was a burden on her that he truly felt apologetic.
I mean, that's why she's here.
This would lead Joo-hee to ask why it is he doesn't just give up, but since revealing personal details wasn't something he wanted to share right now, Sung simply said it was to keep himself from dying of boredom. His excuse was that being a hunter was
Yeah, I remember his excuse.
Of course,
a hobby.
Such an excuse didn't really fly with Joo-hee, but with nothing more to say, the most he could do was just chuckle at her. Now, to quantify just how much money certain essence stones are worth, the E-rank ones are somewhere around $80, while the C-rank ones would sell for more like $8,000.
Okay, I cover all of this in my reaction, episode 1 and 2, so if you want to watch my reactions of solo leveling with some extra information from the light novel, feel free to watch my reaction. Just a shameless plug.
Now, to quantify just how much money certain essence stones are worth, the E-rank ones are somewhere around $80, while the C-rank ones would sell for more like $8,000.
Yep.
Obviously, the low-rank stones aren't enough to make a livable wage off of, but with the higher ranks bringing in thousands of dollars each, I'm sure you don't need me to tell you just how much profit there could be in something like a C or B rank dungeon.
Yeah, can you imagine an A or S rank?
That we did on my stream the other day, twitch.tv/aninews_. We talk more about solo.
I thought it was my Twitch. Look at his recommended and following. I feel like we are watching the same people. Very interesting.
Twitch.tv/aninews_. We talk more about solo leveling every Sunday. But back to the story. It was shortly after that the extremely rare double dungeon was found. An occurrence so incredibly scarce that even with Mr. Song's 10 years of experience, never once had he ever come across one. There was no doubt that this was what it was though, since despite killing the boss that they thought was the boss, the gate still didn't show any signs of closing.
Yeah, if the gate is not closing, then the dungeon is not over.
Still somewhere beyond this hidden passageway.
That's why.
The decision of choosing to explore it was quite the tough one, since even though the dungeon was easy up until this point, and even though it should technically remain easy all the way till the end, there was no guarantee that any of this would be easy. There were no guarantees when raiding a dungeon at all, and when it came to things like this, it really all depended on how much risk everyone was willing to take. So, with a total of 17 hunters present, the votes were cast and a decision made. The potential riches awaiting them was worth the risk.
Fun fact, I think in the anime there is only 13 of them.
Of whatever threats that they may come across. The passage turned out to be even longer than expected though, since even after 40 minutes of walking, nothing seemed to indicate that they were getting anywhere. If the path had continued for 20 minutes more, then the group would have had no choice but to turn back and leave. Reason being that after a boss is defeated and dungeon cleared, the hunters within only have 1 hour to escape it. If they don't, then the gate will close and they'd be trapped forever. So, if walking to the boss room was to take 1 hour or more, then the risk of getting trapped inside would be exponentially greater. Sure, they could run and make it back in less than an hour, but with time also being needed to scavenge and gather loot, they would definitely be cutting it close and risk getting trapped forever. Now, it's when the door...
That's why most of the time when the guilds are actually raiding the dungeons, they don't kill the boss, they leave the boss alive, and they have a team of miners. I mean, it's a bit of a spoiler, but that's how the guilds are doing it. They have different teams that go into the gates, and they clear everything in the dungeon, and then they send the miner team, quote unquote, and then they mine and gather all the corpses from the monsters. So that's why you don't actually want to kill the boss until you are ready to close the gate.
Finally showed up that the peculiarity of such an entrance really did make everyone nervous, like it was some sort of Dark Souls fog gate. I mean, it was clear the doors were
It is
intimidating
kind
to
of fog
everyone,
gate, yeah.
and the odd nature of its presence definitely instilled doubt. Song could tell that this was the case, so before they could let their uncertainties get the best of them, he quickly flipped the conversation by exploiting a few key logical fallacies. Not only did he use his position of power to instill fake confidence, but he also applied guilt by saying he would continue alone if he had to. So,
Yeah.
by being this elder veteran and saying he would enter regardless, he had simultaneously eased all the anxiety everyone was feeling, as well as coerced them into thinking they would be losing out if they didn't go. He had essentially single-handedly persuaded the group into walking towards their doom. Of course, the thought of becoming rich didn't help either, but that was more so hearsay from rumors.
There is some
Sure,
greed
everyone
into
says
it as
there's
well.
Incredible treasures hidden within double dungeons, but the only real story was the small guild who apparently grew massive from one. They had supposedly found a double dungeon and used the profits from it to grow exponentially practically overnight. So, with that being what everyone was potentially walking away from, no one wanted to let Song get all the treasure for himself. Reason being that the way treasure worked when it came to raids was that, unlike essence stones which were procured individually, treasure was divided equally among everyone. What that meant was that even if Sung Jin-woo didn't do any fighting, by just being there at the end he would get an equal cut of any treasure that was found.
Yep.
The rest was mental gymnastics going
That's
towards the
why
monsters
it's easier.
should be just as easy as the earlier ones, and that was that for choosing whether to enter or not. Now, I'm sure you don't need me to tell you just how massive the room they entered was, but to give you a true idea of its actual scale, it was about the size of 4 Olympic stadiums combined together.
It is very big.
That's
very, very big.
320,000 square meters of open space, or a giant boss room with a diameter of 2 kilometers. The main statue was bigger than the Statue of Liberty, so in anime terms that's even taller than the Colossal Titan. All in all, it was a truly grand space that no one could have even imagined. Now, I won't jump into the events of the disaster just yet, but what I will mention before ending this video is the runic inscription Song had translated for everyone. These aren't words that can be found anywhere on Earth, but are instead a unique language solely discovered in dungeons. They're also not words,
And those runes can only be read by a mage class.
but are instead a unique language solely discovered in dungeons. They're also not words any normal human can decipher, since only hunters capable of magic can read them.
There you go.
What I mean is
I guess,
that
yeah.
only the hunters
My
who
pose was
awaken to
useless.
magic-related
Nice.
professions are capable of understanding the runic alphabet these words are written in. So, with that leading us towards the big cliffhanger, I think we can end things off here and pick things up next week.
Yep.
You can be sure to find another solo leveling video right here on Monday or Tuesday.
Nice.
If you want to know exactly when, then be sure to subscribe with notifications turned on.
Subscribe.
But yeah,
to
what did you
aninews.
guys think of the episode?
Great
I'm
content.
curious to hear the opinions of anime-onlys as well as those who've read the manhwa too. So, whether you liked it or not, or whether you're someone who's read it, let me know down in the comments. Now,
There you
before
go.
I go, a huge thanks to those who are members of the channel.
Alright, so if you don't know aninews, he makes content regarding anime, and he has a lot of content regarding Overlord as well, so if you don't know what Overlord is, I strongly suggest that you do look into it. Alright, I will be back probably tomorrow or the day after to watch the cut content for episode 2 and give some of my feedback as well. You can watch my reaction. I have some information over there as well. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.